Hi, and welcome to another episode of Connecting Women Who Break Barriers. Today, I have the beautiful Ambika with me. How are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here today. I really appreciate us not knowing each other a lot, but you being open to doing the podcast with me. So that, gives me a lot of respect and also a lot of inspiration to keep reaching out to people and encouraging that conversation and dialogue with women like yourself who are willing to share what they're inspired by, what their passions are, and also just other women who want to inspire other women, I guess. So we continue to create a path for women to empower each other. And I think sisterhood is really important and something worth definitely creating. So it's a privilege of mine to be having this conversation with you today. I want to start off and just get you to share a little bit about who you are, what your interests are, and what inspired you to even share a conversation with me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aradhana, firstly, for doing this. I think when you reached out, it was a very instinctive yes from my side as well. I went to the page, the podcast page, and I think for me, the topic in itself, which is connecting women without barriers, that was extreme. That caught my eye, and I didn't have to think too much in terms of whether what this is I mean, the topic in itself was very empowering enough for me to want to be a part of this. So thank you for that. A little bit about myself. I'm currently in Mumbai. I'm originally from Delhi, but I moved here for work about 5 years back. I originally come from a finance background, and I now work in media. So I'm working at a OTT platform here in Mumbai, and it's been a series of changes in terms of career paths for me. Also changes in cities. I think I've lived in different cities in the last decade or so. So it's been a very exciting journey, but finally here in Bombay, and finally feel that I found a home here. Yeah, so really looking forward to this chat today. And in terms of interests, I think you also asked, there's a lot. I think I enjoy playing sports. In general, I like to keep myself out when I'm done with work just to keep myself busy with a lot of recreational stuff. So I'm in Bandra and in Mumbai, and this is one area where there's a lot to explore also. There's something new opening up around. So I like going to different cafes as well. I like traveling a lot. I think a large part of my personality is just traveling, just enjoying meeting other people. And so I feel like it's very integral to who I am also now as a person, that I want to be in a new place where I haven't been before every few months. So yeah, those are a couple of things that I really enjoy doing, and it keeps my headspace also very balanced and healthy.
Yeah, I love that. And there's nothing like traveling. For anyone that doesn't know, I met you actually when I went to India for a ski trip and also to see my family. So that was a new experience. I was meeting all of you, and a lot of you knew each other, but I didn't know anyone from the group. And I loved it. And that's the benefit of traveling, is that we get to meet new people, we get to see things differently. What's your favorite city to visit so far, if there's one?
London, I think I will always, and I also don't think of London as a city anymore. I've spent 3 years there working. I feel like it's an extended part of my home now. So it was a very tough decision actually moving back to India, because I hadn't found any other place in the world which I felt so much at home. So London, I think, will always be special. But in terms of a good, fun city to visit, which I could go again and again to, would be Portugal. Great time. It was very unexplored a couple of years before from now. So it was a lot of fun. I went with my friends from school, and it was just the best time. It's such a good city
I
and
love
not crowded at all.
No, I want to talk a little bit about that because you just mentioned that you've worked in London. But the other thing that caught my attention is that you said London also feels like home, Mumbai also feels like home, and you grew up in Delhi. So I love that you've been able to create home wherever you've moved to. And I feel like that's something that a lot of us can get restricted in our own mindset when we're comfortable somewhere. We're like, this is home. I don't want to leave. I don't want to change. How was that like for you, given that, there's three prominent locations that you've been in? Was it easy to change or
I think initially it was tough leaving home, which was Delhi. But what really helped, honestly, is the fact that I wanted to do it since I was in college in Delhi. Prior to deciding where to go for work, as a family, we traveled a lot. I come from a family of lawyers, and my father's court vacations coincided with our school vacations perfectly. So every summer, all five of us were just absolutely free at the same time. And that inevitably, as a family, became an unsaid thing that, of course, we're going to travel somewhere in the summer. Everybody was on the same page that we'll go to a new place to see a new place. Our ways of traveling actually became extremely similar. So that's where it really came from, the idea of being away and getting comfortable with the thought of being in a new place, which is not very comfortable, seeing that place from a different perspective, doing things that other people are doing. So it came from there. So I was comfortable with the idea of being away from home. But yes, packing my bags and going to a different city, and I think that took a little bit of time for me as well. So the first time I actually moved was for my master's. I went to Manchester. And after that, I worked for 1.5 years in Cambridge, which is very small city in UK. So it's not even a big enough city. And then I moved to London after that for a year and a half. So I think just the constant moving kind of made me a little comfortable with the idea of changing places, changing scenarios, meeting new people. So it didn't feel scary, the thought of it. And again, I was going back home very often. Parents would visit me very often. So it didn't feel that I was being away, luckily, for a big stretch of time. I think had things been different where I wasn't able to visit them or they weren't able to visit me as frequently as they did, it would have been a little different. So I was lucky in that aspect that I could have good FaceTime with them. We could celebrate important festivals, occasions together as much as possible. So that really eased my journey of like moving places. And as far as building a home is concerned and feeling like a city is home, I think that directly comes off from the vibe of the place that you're in. I met amazing people in Cambridge. It was almost like having an extended family. I'm in touch with them till date. So that small city became also a very important part of a very defining part of my work journey or independent journey, because I had a really, really good group of people there. If I wanted to have a home cooked meal, they were there. It was really nice. But that family that I'm talking about, they were from Malaysia. So it was just also very surprising to me as to how much I could connect with them, they with me, and really defined, I think, the ease with which, even henceforth, when I moved, it was just meeting really, really, really lovely people, building that community, not feeling that you are here alone. And the same continues in Mumbai as well. I think there's so many people I've met like me who have left their home, who are not at home, but we all share those common values of wanting to do something by ourselves in a new city, in a big city. And so you find your community, and then every city kind of becomes or takes a little bit of you. And that's what for me then becomes that, okay, I can call this place a home. I found my people, I found a space, despite everything that's not right. Also, there's so much that I love about the place. So that's what home is really. So a little bit of me in every place that I've been to, really.
as you said, you can find the good and bad wherever you go. That's just a part of life. But you're embracing the good in every single place, and you've made amazing connections, which I think, at the core of who we are as human beings, we want that connection. We want people to be able just to have a chat with, to have a meal with. That's why I think it's really important for us to be ourselves when we're meeting people and just be able to share who we are, and then you build those authentic relationships no matter where you go. So your journey sounds really empowering. What made you move from finance? Because I know that that's a little bit different. As you said, you're working in the OTT platform space now.
So growing up, as I said, I come from a family of lawyers, and one thing I knew was that I didn't want to do law because I was seeing there's lawyers everywhere in my family. I want to do something different so that we can all bring something different to the table. It was never instinctive for me growing up where I was like, I want to be this. When I was doing my college, that idea of investment banking or going into banking seemed very appealing to me. I felt like I could do this. And so it started with wanting to be and pursue investment banking, which is why I did my master's in finance. And I felt like I had a natural affinity towards analytical things as well. Never about one aspect of a, even if you talk about a business or anything, it was always about like a holistic approach, which is where I felt that maybe this is something that I can do and I want to explore. So I did my master's, and after that got into mergers and acquisitions, an M&A profile in PwC in UK. And the idea was that along with being in UK for 3 years on a work permit, and also I was simultaneously qualifying as a chartered accountant from the Institute of England in Wales. So I was like, this is a good starting point. I will have a degree, like I'll have a qualification if nothing else works out. So I will not be out of a job. I will get the work experience I wanted. And I'll also be doing something that I want to experiment with. So I took that role in the hope that during the 3 years, I will figure out which part of this business do I want to be in and which city also within the UK. I think what happened was in those 3 years with the work experience, I knew from the beginning I didn't want to be an accountant. It was just a backup. So for me, I was seeing it as just that. But when I was in mergers and acquisitions, I think is when I realized that the clients that I had were from different businesses, and where I was really organically attracted was the media business because the model was interesting. It was super relatable. I've grown up with watching movies in India. Entertainment and media has been such a huge part of my life growing up. So being able to get an insight into the media business from the lens that I was looking at it as in a buy or a sell side was super interesting. And I was like, oh, this is easy for me to understand as a business. And it was very exciting also because just the revenue streams as a business model, I was absolutely engaged. So that was when that first exposure happened. But I think the turning point came when in those 3 years also was in between the idea of, okay, if I have to make a career shift, do I want to still stay in UK? Because the more I stay here, the more I stay in this profile, work permit, getting a work permit, it's going to keep me further away from what I actually want to do. Even then, I didn't know this is exactly what I want to do and become, but I knew that I have to make that shift to get to where I want to eventually. And so making that decision of leaving the job and the country both and being okay with the idea of I will not get a residency now because I'm coming back after 3 years instead of 5. All those trade offs, I still remember the feeling of being so conflicted because it was one of the toughest things I had to make a choice for. I was making that choice not even knowing where I'm going to be once I come back to Delhi. I'm quitting my job, I'm leaving the country that I've loved my life in, not knowing what I want to do after this or where I'll be after this. So I came back to Delhi, and because also I do believe that I think constructively or putting your mind to something at any point is super important to be sane and to make good decisions. I came back. I obviously wasn't working full time, but I got back to working with the non-profit that I work at, which is Minds Foundation, which is to do with furthering the cause of mental health. So I worked with them for 6 months as their development and partnerships lead, just trying to reach out to people, talk to them about this, partner with them, and just to build more conversation around this topic. So that kept me absolutely on track and sane when it comes to productively being occupied and also doing something that was purely out of passion. And that's really when I was also going through what next do I want to get into. And that's when this opportunity in Mumbai came up. It came up on my LinkedIn, and instinctively I just felt that, right, I don't have the experience, but let me just reach out to this person on LinkedIn over an email, and then let's see how they react or if they reply. Luckily, they replied, and luckily, they wanted someone with my background. They wanted a qualified accountant, but not from India, from the UK, which I was like, this is great. Those pieces just fell together. I absolutely loved the work culture. I was excited about the opportunity also to learn about production and start my journey within this space from there. Also moving to Mumbai, it seemed like it was the right next thing to do. I've loved Mumbai as a city every time I visited. So I was excited, and that's really how I landed here. And it's been 5 years since, and it's been an amazing learning curve. It's been so much understanding. So today I'm at a point where I know exactly the direction I want to go into. The creative part of it has always been exciting to me. So I'm looking forward now to building whatever skill sets I've gained so far along with this to reaching where I want to. It's been a journey from that to this.
It's also an empowering journey, right? Because you didn't settle. And I think that's, a key message that I want our listeners to take about it. It's like having a starting point or having some backup or something available is great. But at the same time, pivot, try something new, try again if it doesn't work out how you want. And like, by doing that, you're slowly getting to where the next path is, but that doesn't necessarily stop you from pivoting again in future. So I love that you followed your heart and you did make those tough decisions because, as you said, leaving London and not knowing where you were going to go to next or what the role looked like, it was really good. And I also really love that you took a chance on yourself. You reached out to someone on LinkedIn without any expectations, but with hope. And I think that's really important because when we have hope and we believe in ourselves that things are going to work out, and the skill set that you have, the experience that you have was all in your favor. And I do believe that things do align in a great way for us when we give ourselves a chance and we believe there's an opportunity out there and I'm just going to try because I've got nothing to lose. So yeah, I love that you've done that. And just touching on one thing that you've also mentioned is that the not-for-profit that you worked with, I love that you didn't just sit around and not do anything, but again, you moved towards doing something that you're passionate about. How did you get into that space and why is it something that you're passionate about?
Yeah. So getting into that space was more during college when you know how you're building your CV and you want to volunteer for a bit at a non-profit just to make your CV a little wholesome. So to be honest, it started with research on that and then working with Minds. And that time, Minds Foundation was just starting up. Operations were just starting up. So I joined as a search engine optimization, SEO, SEM marketing intern. So I was helping build the website. The team was based out of LA. Our founder is based out of LA as well. But he's from Gujarat, and the work that he's doing is it started from spreading mental health awareness in villages and remote areas in rural India, basically, starting from Gujarat. So we continue to have a big operations team in Gujarat, in Vadodara, just working with different villages across the city to help build these conversations. So that's where it started from. And I think as Minds grew and my association with them grew in college, it stopped becoming just about that 1 month internship and more about us working together in building more from what we already had. And that inclination in me, I think, came from the fact that as a person, I've been someone who's prioritized a work-life balance. I do believe that yes, you have to put your 100% in work, but it cannot ever come at the cost of not taking care of yourself, doing or ignoring things that you need to do for yourself to keep your mind healthy and strong. So before conversations like today, there's a lot of conversation happening about this. 10 years back, it was still we were in a different space back then where talking about mental health therapy, these were not common hallway discussions at all. It was very difficult to find an audience to talk to people about. It was not something that if you're feeling something you could talk to someone absolutely instantly, because you would worry about whether they'd understand, they'd not, should you even, or you do process it yourself. So there was all of that happening, but I in that process found myself with Minds, with a group of people, open in a safe space where these conversations were just so encouraged. And it made me feel they get where I'm coming from. They get that this is normal. And on the other side, I was also getting to learn so much from mental health practitioners about the technical aspects of this, the seriousness of it, the need for help. So I think we both grew, the foundation and I both grew together. I think the mid-year mark, around 5, 6 years from now, I just started feeling like it's an extension of me. So everywhere that I was going to with my work as well, Minds Foundation, until date, it's still the same, that it's just an extension of who I am now as a person, where if I meet somebody or if I'm having any conversation or somebody wants to do something to further this conversation, it's, to me, Minds is like it's that extension where I would want people to go look at their work, see if it can help them. There's therapy that's offered, there's subsidized therapy, free therapy. We're just open to doing anything and everything possible that is going to make an impact, that is going to get people to having conversations. So during COVID is when we really did so many calls with a lot of colleges who were interested. I think that conversation had also peaked at the time of COVID. It was really helped that time to talk about these things. But yeah, I think that Minds has been a super important part, and the reason why it is because our thought system, the value system that we want to bring about the change, we align extremely well in that space. So I didn't really have to try to find a role for myself to continue working for them. It was just working with them to do the best that we can.
I want to definitely share all of their details in the show notes for this podcast, because having that accessibility is so important. And sometimes people don't know where to go. And also they get a little bit hesitant about my story. No one will understand it. I'm a little bit different. And just having people, as you said, you had an opportunity to be able to express yourself without judgment, and you had the support on both ways, I think is really important, especially in this day and age where, whether it's social media, whether it's family pressure, whether it's any pressure that you're getting from outside or even internal pressure where you're judging yourself, it's really easy to get trapped into a mental state which is not empowering. It can be really challenging, and I know that I've struggled with it for all my life, to be honest, and there wasn't always that help or access available. So it's really nice, and I really admire you for continuing on that journey and not just leaving it as an internship, because we've all got busy lives, we've all got different things that we need to do, as well as taking care of yourself, which you mentioned. But to be in a place where you're wanting to help others and having that foundation grow is really admirable. What's something that you would say to somebody who doesn't know what to do next, whether they're struggling mentally, whether they're struggling with their career, or just in any way? What's a piece of advice that you would give them?
I think struggling with your career or struggling otherwise, I think the first thing that's extremely important is to have a check in with yourself in terms of normalizing the feeling that it's okay to not knowing what you're going to be doing next or where you're going to be next. I think obviously it's happened multiple times in my own career, but very recently in my personal space as well. Sometimes it is these feelings of questioning whether you're taking the right decision and building up that emotion inside you because of various external things can really go both ways. If you internalize it and not do anything about it and take the pressure of what everyone else is saying, then it'll consume you at some point. But if you actually give yourself a little bit of a breather to walk yourself through what you've done so far, what the options are in front of you, and rationally just try to take the next best thing, and also be at peace with the fact that this is the next best thing that I'm going to do and decide on. It may or may not work, but given my resources and the way that I'm thinking about this and my ability, this is the next best thing I'm going to do, and then we'll see. I think that narrative we tell to ourselves is the biggest game changer, because if we end up doing something or taking a decision, if you're confused and get influenced by what someone else is saying and end up doing that, I think sooner or later you'll not be at peace with that decision because it's not yours. So it's important to do that check-in. And then it's also important that if you're really struggling in terms of it happens where you're unable to process things the way you'd like to process them, because maybe multiple things are happening at the same time. And in that case, my advice would be to just seek professional help. I think that it makes life so much simpler, because you're just telling another person who does not know anything about your history, the mistakes you've made, the good things you've done, nothing but plain and simple, can really give you a little bit of a guidance in terms of just, or even a direction in terms of where to think and how to think and where you can start from. And honestly, I think that a strong mind and a healthy mind is it's the starting and the ending point for us. So we need to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to keep it at its optimal functioning. It's anyway a lot of stresses in life. And as I think we grow older, they don't decrease. There's responsibilities that keep increasing. Choices get more difficult as we go along. I think when I was in college and making that choice of, oh, should I go to this university or that university? Those choices have now evolved to, should I buy this house? What if I get married? Should I, like, those choices just become so varied and so big that it's bound to make you feel a little overwhelmed. But which is why I think making sure that you are taking time for yourself every now and then to pull back, to reset yourself, to keep your mind functioning at a little bit of a level headed field is extremely important. And obviously there are things and steps that you need to do to be able to achieve it, which is having your core group of people, your support people, your go-to people, having things that are only and only your own, things that you can go to, which nobody else is involved in. It could be reading, it could be going and playing badminton, it could be anything, but things that are truly just yours, just so that you can show up better for yourself and for others. Bottom line, I think, being that it's extremely important to check in with yourself and not be too harsh, whatever the outcome is. If you're doing it with a reason, if you're fully aligned with the decision that you're making, and you know this is the best decision that you can make given your circumstances, then wherever you land up in life after this, it's going to be an adventure, and it will take you to where you're meant to be eventually. And as you said earlier, I think I believe in a little bit of, let you do your bit and then let the the universe do their bit in helping you and navigating you to reach where you are eventually, and everything else on the way is going to be learning.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, we've got to try, but as you said, there's different stages of life and different things that we need to focus on at different stages. And if we don't give ourselves a chance to process each elements, it just becomes really overwhelming. And the more we suppress the emotions or the feelings and everything that we're going through, the more it actually becomes harder to face them later down the track, because now there's 10 things that I'm dealing with rather than one when it was one before. Having a regular check-in is really important, and having that core group, I believe, is really important as well. You realize that core group of people is going to have your back, and it's actually okay to share with them whatever you're going through, because they love you for who you are. They're not going to necessarily judge you and say, why are you struggling with that? Because a lot of the time you're giving them an opportunity to open up as well, because they may be struggling with the same thing, but they're feeling a little bit shy to actually talk about it. So I love that you're really aware and wise in that sense, because it's something that all of us can be doing, and it's encouraged as well, because life does have its ups and downs, and that's going to continue no matter what. And making decisions, whether it's on a professional level or personal level, we have to do that on a daily basis anyway. So make it easier for yourself and have those check-ins and have those things that you can do momentarily, which allow you just to be, without you thinking what's going to happen 10 years down the track, or, you know, anything. Always forward thinking. If you take that minute to go play badminton, you can't think about anything else. You're going to miss that shot. I love that you're doing things that are also keeping you present. And you mentioned earlier when you were at PwC looking at media companies, that brought about some of your interest in working in that space now. So on a fun note, what's your favorite movie and why?
What's my favorite film? Dil Chahta Hai is one of my favorite films. And I think it's because it speaks of so many different elements. It speaks of friendship, it speaks of love, it speaks of figuring out and discovering who you are as an individual. And those three themes, I think, stuck with me through that entire film. Obviously, there's music and all of those things that were great as well. But I think I just liked the fact that it was so wholesome and it was so ahead of its time for back in the day that it still continues to leave a mark. And every time I'm like, oh, there's too much content to watch now. What should I watch? I'll leave everything and I'll go back to watching that film because today when I watch it, it makes me feel that happy emotion of life was simple, There's friendships that will have their ups and downs. The love life will have its ups and downs. You will struggle to know who you are at times. But as long as you have your basics right, you will figure it out. And I felt like that theme was inspiring. I loved it.
I love it too, and I actually will watch it again because it's been a very long time. But as you said, those three buckets, yourself, your friends, your family, and other people that inspire you. Now that you're in media space and working in an area that you're passionate about as well, what inspires you every day?
What inspires me every day? Honestly, it's not one person or one thing that inspires me. I think I've realized that because you're meeting so many people, I think anybody who is fearlessly following their passion is brave enough to fight something that they're going through, or people who are just say around me in Bombay, left their house, left their parents, and are here to build something of their own. Anyone with ambition. I think these conversations and people coming from a certain kind of school of thought of fearlessness in pursuing what they want to do in life, no matter how big or how small, I think that's really inspiring. It makes me feel that I'm also doing this. I'm here for a purpose, and it makes me feel like I'm not alone here trying to figure stuff out because I know there's a journey for me still to where I want to get to. But I feel extremely inspired and motivated when I feel and I see people around me who are also on the same journey. So that's very nice. It makes me feel that there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I'm choosing to live by myself and showing up to work every day. Also, I think the city in itself, there's so many opportunities. There's so much that you can do. So it makes me feel sometimes that I wish there were more hours in the day because I want to do this also and I want to do that also and I want to try this as well. And that's really inspiring and that's really nice because there are days where it makes me feel really limitless that, oh, this is something that I can do. Maybe I should think about this over the weekend and, figure something out. So I really love that about the city and where you are, no matter which part of the world, your surroundings and the place you're in does play a role in inspiring you also. If there is that stimulus around, if you see people around who are also as driven and excited and talking about something new that's happening. So yeah, I feed off from it as I go along every day.
I'm going to always remember this part of the conversation. The rest was amazing too, but even just as you said, more hours in the day. When you're enjoying life, no matter what's happening, you want to keep enjoying it. And I think that's the most important part. We've got to navigate the challenges. We've got to embrace change because it gets inevitable. But then when it comes to life, a life person and a live person, it's about living. It's about like exploring, it's about meeting new people and having different conversations. And, that's, I think, where it really comes down to, right? It's like everyone's got their story and their story is important, but we're all here to enjoy life in whatever extent we can. I'm going to ask you two final questions, and one is for fun. And it doesn't have to be a serious response if you don't want it to be, but what would you tell your future self, say 5 years from now? What are you excited about, or what are you telling your future self we're working on now?
I think I would like to keep it simple for my future self. Just say that don't overthink it. I think that if I look back 5 years from now or even till date, I am guilty of overthinking through things a lot. And somewhere I do feel that has taken away from um, time and from things or from my mind space that I could have put elsewhere. And I feel like where I'm at today is not bad, it's a good place. And so, what good did those times spent overthinking do? Because this was not planned, none of this was planned. I didn't know that I'm going to be here. I didn't start off with one goal of I have to reach there. And this was not part of the plan. This happened to me during the course of life and during the course of decisions that I had to make, like this or that, doing all of that. I've landed up here. And I feel like it's great. And so I do feel confidently enough that 5 years from now as well, I should be in a good, better, different place maybe. So I don't want to spend too much time being overly critical or overly indulgent with emotions which are not going to help me today productively. Anyway, those feelings of what next, and you have those moments of excitement and stress and anxiousness and sadness and happiness. Anyway, those happen, but to overdo it is what I'm trying to also consciously work on myself these days, is that whenever I do feel like I have to think about something too much or I find myself thinking about something too much, I just consciously pull back a little bit and do something else, or listen to music, or meditate a little bit, or go for a walk. So I'm trying to make those daily small changes so that my future self does not hold me guilty for overthinking.
And as you said, keep it simple. Do the
Yeah.
small things to stay present. Right now is just as important, but when it comes to your future self, it's also nice to be excited about something. And the more of these small things you do today, that will make you even more confident, even more certain about who you are and what your passionate is. It just allows you to continue embracing different things. As you said, you didn't know you'd be here. And I think that's one thing that we all get fixated on. I want to achieve this by this time and have a bit of a timeline or a journey in our mind. But like you, I didn't know I'd be doing podcasting. Wherever the journey takes us, and I love it, I'm embracing it. It's totally out of my comfort zone, but again, connecting with yourself and other amazing people is so inspiring. And it gives you an opportunity to say there's no end goal anymore. It's just a matter of embracing today, doing the small things, and just also letting some of it unfold as it does. And just the last question for our listeners. So, your story and everything that you've shared has been super empowering. If there was one thing that you wanted to leave our guests with, maybe one of your mantras or something that you feel has helped you so far, what would that be?
I would say that I think we just need to be allies for each other. That's really helped me a lot. I'm internalize a lot. I don't share too much. So just having a support group of people, my people, or people like, even talking to you today, honestly, I know for the rest of the day today, the level I'm going to operate at energetically is going to be different because I've had such a good conversation with you. And that's only because I think at some level we believe in the same thing. We're allies for each other in terms of how we're looking at life, how we need to simplify it as much as possible, and all of those things. And I think just having that and more of that around you can help everyone without people even knowing. So I think that's a beautiful thing to think, right? That imagine you feel you're in a place where you don't have to maybe necessarily talk about what you're going through or feeling, but just being around people or having conversations with people can change your mood because we're all rooting for each other, and are there for each other. So I think I would encourage everyone to do our own bit, which is that when we do meet somebody, when we interact with somebody, we should operate at a high energy level, but also in that process, help others to elevate their mental space as well. Because what they say is true. We don't know what people are going through, we don't know what's happening. A quick conversation or a quick chat doesn't really tell us what someone's feeling. So let's just try to do our bit, just be good people, be genuine listeners, and just yeah, spread as much positivity as we can, because that helps. You'll be doing your bit in just maybe changing another person's day.
Thank you so much. There are so many takeaways. And as you said, just doing our little bit can change someone else's day as well as change your own, because you get to think about what's happened. And the more that we support each other, the more that we can all succeed in different ways, but also the more we get to enjoy life and we
Yeah.
get to do things where it's, again, out of our comfort zone or a little bit different to what we expect. But the unexpected is also special. Things are going to happen in a different way, but sometimes it's nice just for it to flow. So I love you so much for doing this. And I do love you. That's coming from my heart. Thank you for sharing so
Well, thank you.
openly. And I look forward to connecting with you again. Definitely have you on here some other projects, if we even talk about the Minds Foundation a little bit more and look at it from that angle in future. If you've got an event coming up or something like that that you'd like to share with us, or you want support in something like that, I'm more than happy to definitely help out. But I'd love to stay connected. And for all of our beautiful listeners, please follow because she's amazing. The stuff that she shares is also cool. And let's, connect with each other because we want to be active listeners and carers, not because we're going to get anything from each other. I think that's the mindset that I want to also change. Let's be there for each other, no matter what that looks like. I will be sharing, a lot about yourself as well as especially the Minds Foundation, because I think that's a real game changer and important to share. Look forward to another conversation with you in future. And for all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you on here. And until next time, take care.